teams that were coached by Vince Lombardi and, as you learned last night, if you were paying attention, and at the time I was, Curly Lambeau actually coached both franchises. That's a surprise because everybody just thinks Lambeau was only ever the coach of the Green Bay Packers and the last Packers player to wear number 1 before Michael Parsons. So there's a connection, a double connection between the franchises that preceded last night. The connection wasn't great between the two teams last night because the Packers did win 27-18. Gary, the Commanders fan, has characterized it as Packers dominate the Commanders. I don't feel like it was domination. I feel like the Commanders had chances, specifically drive at the end of the half, drive at the start of the third quarter, got no points out of those. Near the end of the first half, I felt like they were abandoning any attempt to try to score a touchdown. They had 3 timeouts, and they weren't using them as the final minute was ticking away. And it's kind of like, are you just trying to get in field goal range? Like, why don't you try to get closer? Especially when if you miss a long field goal, you know what happens? One completion, and the other team's trying a long field goal of their own. And they almost suffered that fate at the end of the half. But for a doink by Brandon McManus, it would have been no 3 points for the Commanders, 3 points for the Packers. That's one of the risks of playing that game of we're just going to settle for a long field goal at the end of the half. Try to score a freaking touchdown when you have those timeouts in your pocket.
Mike, maybe domination is not the right word, but I'll say the Commanders, the Packers made the Commanders look different. The Packers never allow the Commanders to get into any type of rhythm, any type of groove, even with the missed opportunities. And I'm waiting for the moment it's not going to happen. Like Jayden Daniels, I said last year, I've never seen him upset. I've never seen him flustered. I'd be shocked if I ever saw him come to the sideline and throw his helmet or start yelling at somebody. I mean, even when things aren't going well, he's very calm. So off the field, his demeanor was the same. On the field, that's probably the most uncomfortable somebody has made him look. I mean, he was under duress all night. He was never comfortable. He never could settle down. He couldn't run. They held him to 17 yards. So maybe they didn't dominate him, but they did enough to make the Commanders look like a different team. I don't think there aren't many teams in football that can do that, and the Packers did it last night. So give them credit.
Well, and the other thing, too, I noticed, Michael, and there wasn't a lot of talk about this because a lot of the contact happened after the ball was out, and it wasn't egregious. There was just a lot of little blows to Jayden Daniels. And if you would see a replay as the camera moves away, hit from the front, hit from behind, helmet to helmet, not down, but just like 2 helmets banging together, hitting the ground hard when he was sacked near the end of one drive. Just a lot of physical contact for a guy that I still think is too skinny and doesn't have the natural body armor that makes you conducive to withstanding the physical pounding that you take when guys who are much thicker than you are the ones who are contacting you. He constantly had to worry about Micah Parsons, and we'll talk more about the Packers defense, but that's a factor. But yeah, the Commanders didn't look like the team we're used to, because they went from playing one of the lesser teams in the league on Sunday, the New York Giants, to playing one of the better teams in the league on Thursday night, the Green Bay Packers, who, by the way, I noticed this stat right as I was turning the TV off. The Packers are the first team to win on a Sunday and a Thursday to start the season against playoff teams. And I know that's a highly specific statistic that probably doesn't even have the opportunity to happen very often, but the Packers start the season against 2 teams that met in the divisional round. The Lions were 15-2 last year. The Commanders made it to the NFC Championship, and check, the Packers beat them both. Helped to be at home for both of them, but still, check to the Lions, check to the Commanders, and in both games, otherwise potent offenses did not look very good.
And it's an important stat for them. I like that stat because it means a lot to the Packers, who really struggled against playoff teams last year. And they were in a tough division. We know what happened in your NFC North, the Vikings and Lions going back and forth. But they didn't beat the Vikings last year. They didn't beat the Lions last year. They played 2 games against Philadelphia, one in the playoffs, one in the regular season. They lost both of those games, and they barely held on. They lost to the Bears at the end of the year. They won 1 divisional game last year. So, and they made the playoffs themselves, but they really struggled against tough competition, playoff competition. So it may not mean a lot to a lot of teams after 2 games, but it's a good trend, early trend for the Packers if they're able to do this.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.